Thank you as well, Ken, for the nice introduction and the nice and smooth flow to my presentation. So first of all, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm quite happy to be here and very happy to talk after Ken Cattell. What I'm telling you about is two things. One is the Cloud4Europe project. It's a very ambitious name, and so I got started the project in June, and I got a lot of industry partners very much interested in the project. So I try to give you an overview, and I think it fits very well in here because you might be very much interested in, at a certain point in time, joining that project. On the other hand, this is also related to the public sector, and so I will talk a bit about the e-government in general and cloud. So what I did was, I say since 2009 I'm working at the Fraunhofer Institute for Cloud Computing in the public sector. We did a study published in Germany. We did a lot of projects. We did a lot of discussions with others, and what you see at the moment, it's still very difficult to get an adoption of cloud in the public sector. And that has many reasons. And this is, on the other hand, if we can manage in Germany to introduce cloud, I think we can manage in Europe, because Germany is federalism, and then whatever we do and whatever problems we overcome, we can just really easily as well port to Europe. But what's behind it and behind the project? So there is one thing which is quite old, and as Ken already said, there is a lot of cloud already discussed and under discussion already. A lot of work has been done, but coming to the basic idea to foster the European market and to have a single European market out of the European e-government action plan as well as a digital agenda, there are several points which are important. That is, one is strengthening citizens and businesses on one hand, and just do something for the need of users. The government has to do something for the need, really what they need to do. And what they also have to have is increased transparency and better performance of public sector information. And what else they have is seamless government services, make it easier, not have silo applications in e-government and not doing interworking correctly, just doing really cooperation as well with the right tools in IT, what you have. You should also do more efficiency and effectiveness, which means reduce the administrative burden from IT provisioning and let that do others, and improve the organizational processes, which means more cooperation, more away from silos, thinking really of optimized processes, and then you need at least the implementation of appropriate key enablers to make sure that things can happen. So what is it, what government is now facing is due to the, I would say, demographic change as well in the public sector. What you see is at the moment you have smaller data centers. What do? They work currently on providing IT infrastructure for their public agency, and they lose people, and they lose a lot of people in the future. So they cannot still manage to keep those work done by themselves. What they need is, they need to bring it into an environment where they don't have to cope with IT, but just to really concentrate on administrative work, which means there's only one solution, that's the cloud, as a solution to help them to better and if more transparent, efficiently do their work and provide services to the public sector. The other thing what the public sector is facing, that they have new challenges. So the world is changing. There's a lot of participation, social networking as well in the public sector. So politicians have to face all these things. And what you have is you have an enormous volume of data which you have to store somewhere. And I don't want to talk about big data. I just want to say, just try to do it in a simple way and try to use for that kind of partially in voting periods, high-level data volume, use cloud for that one. So the demand of citizen really thinks that you have to do something, but what's happening today in the public sector very often is they have still old technologies, and it's a lot of cost to move from what you have now as historical infrastructures to move those to the cloud. It's as well quite difficult to find a lot of public services which are available for the public sector and which are enabled on the cloud infrastructure. So you have as well to build those. So just think of this dynamic extension of storage, what you need for high data volume from social media talks. Your application needs to be able to really address those scalability directions, and that's at the moment not the case. So you have some applications already in the cloud, yes, for sure, but the most of the applications which are for the public sector currently are not facing the needs for a cloud infrastructure. So there is a lot of work which needs to be done to make that happen. Saying that, I will come to the Cloud4Europe project, which will try to overcome the obstacles and to make the public sector happy by bringing not only services, but as well innovation to the public sector. That doing by a collaboration between public authorities, that's the elevator pitch, and as well the industry, yeah, and using that instrument of pre-commercial procurement. I don't know, who knows what pre-commercial procurement is? Yes, I know that. Okay. It took me also a while what pre-commercial procurement is, but I still have some idea where I don't know if it comes from there, but in the military area, you have this pre-commercial procurement. There is something you say, I want to have something which is flying, which is not visible, which is flying very deep and very steep, not high. Low, yes, sorry. Very low, which is not visible, which is not captured by radar. And what you get finally is a stealth. So that's one point there, and there is a questionnaire then and a functional description that you say, I want to have these kind of properties, and then you give it to the industry, and the industry says, okay, I think of what it could be. And then they provide you with something. They do a prototype of that, a piloting of that, and then finally the public sector can become a customer, and it's sharing risk between industry and public sector for benefits of both. So the industry gets some investment at the beginning, the public sector gets results for better cost. So that's the instrument of pre-commercial procurement, trying to bring then as well innovation in the public sector. Because what you not request here is services which are already there. And so it's quite important that you understand that. So it's not that you want to have already existing infrastructures or services. It's really that you go in the direction to have something which is not available at the moment. So what are the main things what we have to do is the project consists of a lot of public sector organizations, which are in general ministries, which are becoming the procurers of the services in question. They consist as well of others like us as research and other partners from other research areas and public sector agencies which are not going to be part of the procurement but which are working on the basic ideas. So what is the first thing what we have to do is there are a lot of publications unleashing the potential of cloud, which is coming from Commission. There is a lot already available on studies. What are the obstacles of cloud for the public sector? So what we have to do is we have to identify where are the gaps, what's not there, what is in addition needed to identify, and what we will do is, we like the word harmonization. We do it for the data protection, but we would like to do it as well for the public sector. We want to harmonize requirements to really be able finally to get the potential out of cloud, saying we have some reusable, identifiable building blocks which can be used by the public sector, and they fulfill those requirements which are harmonized by the public sector. It's also very difficult, as you know, whenever you talk to a customer and you ask him what he wants, he can just tell you what he doesn't want, but he never tells you what he really wants. So it's always a difficult problem facing that. So what we try very often to do is really to say we try to harmonize for the public sector those requirements and really identify those things which the public sector really needs. And then identifying those functionalities which can be part of a functional description required for this procurement part. The second thing is really to make sure that the public sector will be able to use cloud. And the point is not, the public sector is not using not cloud only because of security reasons. Very often it is not really using the cloud because it is not knowing what is the cloud. So, and I can give a very nice overview on private to public cloud short description. So, but what we have is still, we have more than 60 definitions. We have a lot of reference architectures. And you cannot go really to a procurer and say, okay, take this architecture and put yourself into this kind of architecture to say what you want and bring this to me. So it's really very often that the public sector has to learn what are the benefits of cloud, how can I use it, what standards are available, and how can I do the procurement as well of the cloud services. So saying that, the project will as well look at what are, except the data protection issues, is necessary for the public sector from a political point of view to harmonize, like say procurement law, has it to be harmonized within Europe to have a European use of cloud services within Europe? Are there additional requirements for social law? So you have a lot of regulations within each country which hinder as well, which might be very difficult to have a joint procurement between different procuring entities. So we are working on it, how to make happen that these things can work out, and these are on a legal basis, which is as well quite difficult. So, and what we have in the project phases is we are working now on the preparation of the tender. And don't ask me what we are requiring or requesting next year in August for functionalities. It is fostering now and this is focusing now, but we also want to invite a lot of you to participate in the dialogue to get the things in the right direction. So we are now working on identifying what is the main, what is the requirement from the public sector, what industry has to offer, and how can we match those things together to identify the gaps and to bring a nice and interesting part of service functionality to the project. So what we do then, after those first 14 months, we are going to really do a tender, a European tender, where industry can participate. And as long as you participate as well in the discussion round, you will see what happens. With the PCP process itself, which consists of a couple of phases, where I will go through, the industry is really requested to provide in a competitive way services and bring new ideas to the public sector, what they could need. And if you look at those basic ideas, what's on one side coming from the European Steering Board, from the European Cloud Partnership Steering Board, having like encrypted storages, which I would have called previously e-safes, with the difficulty of who has the key, maybe having totally new ideas how public sector people can use those encrypted storage services easily without having the fear of stolen keys, etc. So that's not the service in question, but these are basically ideas which could be needed in a cross-border European joint tender from 8 different nations in Europe. So we would like to get the industry involved, and Ken was referring to our conference, which I do later, in dialogue. So what we organize is not only the launch conference, but what we will organize in the beginning of next year is national stakeholder days for industry discussions. To make sure that we really address all the issues as well from industry. And we are working, and that's out of those discussions and out of those dialogues, we can identify where are the gaps and what is needed. So the pre-notice will be, I would say, about April, June, not July. Which will say not that much, but that there will be a tender, and the European-wide tender according to all the European regulations. So the industry dialogue will stop as soon as we start with a tender, with a pre-notice, and when the project starts and when we have the PCP operation, we have dialogues with all the bidders to make sure that there is enough understanding from what we want. So the process of the PCP operation is, I can't see it, I lost it. Okay, I lost it. So is in 3 phases. So you have a first phase on 4 months, which is on providing, as a bidder, your understanding what the requirements are, and the proportion of what would you like to do, and how would you follow up the next phases. The next phases is first specification, including implementation of first functionalities, and the last phase is the piloting, which is a demonstration in a test bed of the functionalities of that service. So it's not that in that phase you will have a product out of that. What you have is a pilot out of that. And if that's good enough, you might have the challenge that a lot of public sector organization will be willing to buy that kind of product because that's what actually is needed. With that, we also want to include a lot of small and medium enterprises because we think there's a huge market as well for the public sector for SMEs to provide cloud services for the public sector. And not only having this big cloud providers providing those services. So what we have in the project is we have the consortium, which consists of a lot. It's 24 partners from 11 countries. It's really a challenging project, and it's unfortunately very political. It's not a simple project funded by the European Commission. It's very political because it involves really member states to participate actively in the role of becoming a procurer and jointly doing this pre-commercial procurement together. Which means, imagine you have 8 ministries, and these 8 ministries agree in month 14, which is next August, on one joint tender for all these nations, having cross-border services. So it's very challenging. So we have the industry in the role of delivering services and hopefully participating in the tender. And we have the stakeholders, and so I would also like to invite you to join our webpage and become a member of the stakeholders list. We will have every 3 months a newsletter. We will then engage you in a discussion forum at our webpage to make sure that already our first ideas in which direction the tender will go is also addressed and is also understood by most of you. And we have as well the public authorities there, so you can look what are their requirements, what they want to have. The list of services is not what we're going to procure, but it could be either horizontal services, which is, so what is needed is portability. So I'm not sure if we're really going to say we want to have a portable service. But there are a lot of features which are in general necessary for the public sector to make sure that they can go into the cloud. So the public sector has very specific requirements as well on efficiency, which means in that point in time where they perform with one cloud provider at the moment, and that cloud provider changes its payment policy. They need to go to another provider, but they need really to take out all of the data and put it into another environment. So that's something what the public sector is more facing even than industry. So because they have to do it. They are enforced as well by the governmental laws. So we, the pilot services, that's one what I already discussed. We were thinking of it's like a secure personal data and document vault. What you see here, these three services are administrative documents and file interoperability node or educational content creation. Those are coming mostly from large-scale pilot project, which was another initiative from the Commission for the public sector, where they started to have large-scale pilots for the public sector to have cross-border services. What they did was already developing basic components. So one is on identity. I don't want to just name them all, but so you have a lot of building blocks in these projects, which might be nice ideas because that's already where public sector has agreed that this is what they needed. And I personally believe that you all know cloud is not a matter of technology. Cloud is a matter of organization, of philosophy, of acceptance, of new models where you will go. So that's what I was looking now for. It still comes, it was just at the wrong place. This just again explains how the process goes. So we have, and that's what we have. So the pre-commercial tender goes out. You just apply, you are a bidder of it. There will be open criteria how we will evaluate the bids. So then you have a second phase. In the second phase, another evaluation takes place, so that finally we hope we have at least two. Even if we have more, would be better. But we need at least two finally to have enough attention and to see that we have a comparative approach. So it's as well very important to have here not only one company for the whole process. That wouldn't make sense. So what we really need is a lot of interested companies to participate in that bidding process. And that's the only reason to make sure that you can participate is really to try to participate as early as possible, as well on our web page to see in which direction it is going and to make sure that you understand and it's interesting enough for you to participate. As you have seen, as I told you, we are a lot of partners and we are widespread. You looked very, so I don't go into the detail, but as I told you, we are on 11 states. I would invite you, as you have already done, so I was just thinking, to our launch event. If you just not have registered, you can go to our website, and that's CloudforEurope.eu. We would like you to engage yourself as becoming one of the interested stakeholders, and we would like you to participate as a bidder in the tender. So if any public organization is here, and if anyone would be interested to become a partner, I got a lot of requests that industry would like to become a partner, and as you can imagine, if the public sector is procuring something, you cannot have an industry as a partner because you want the industry to provide the services. But is anybody interested in becoming a procurer? So coming from a public sector, we still have some space, not much, but we have a small space open to participate in the dialogue and to participate in this joint tender project. Here's the reference to the website, and I think you get all the slides somewhere, you can download them. Now that's my contact information. Thank you for your attention.